Good evening, everyone. I think you can hear me properly. We welcome you all to the webinar. It is being organized by Cognixia on AWS platform. In this webinar, we are taking an intermediate level of topic. We are assuming that you have little knowledge about cloud computing. But in case if you don't have, no worry, I'll explain to fill the gap. In today's webinar, we are going to tell you automating management of EC2 instances using AWS. Before the start of the webinar, I would like to share some facts, such as the duration. The duration of the webinar is 90 minutes. As we are seeing that the large number of people joined this webinar, and it's obvious a lot of questions will be raised. I would like to update you that we will try to answer every question, but due to time constraint, might be we can miss some questions. In such cases, you may drop an email to support@cognixia.com or webinar@cognixia.com. Let's start the webinar. So this is an AWS technical session, which is based on automating management of EC2 instances using AWS. First and foremost, thank you everyone once again because you spared your precious time to attend this webinar. I know that this is going to be very useful for you. Okay, so first of all, I'll start with the very first. I would like to give a brief introduction about our company, Cognixia. Cognixia is an award-winning training arm of Collabora. Cognixia delivers training in more than 37 countries worldwide. As of now, more than 1 million professionals has been trained worldwide. By the way, this could be an old figure. We have trained more than 1 million professionals. We have more than 450 happy corporates clients now across the globe. And we also have a large team of industry professionals. More than 4,500 industry professionals and subject matter experts are the part of the team. If you see this slide, the Cognixia is delivering training in industry's most demanding technologies and certification, such as AWS cloud computing, Azure cloud computing, IoT. IoT stands for Internet of Things, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, machine learning, artificial intelligence and deep learning, and blockchain technologies, robotics, and DevOps, and many other courses which are not in the list right now. We have a long list of achievements which has proven our business dedication and the profession with quality. Cognixia is consistently making a significant mark in the world of digital technology training by providing best-in-class training and certification to their students, professionals, and the corporate workforce. Cognixia has awarded with the title Best Emerging Technology Training Organization, which was held in Dubai. And not only this, the Cognixia also has been awarded as the Training Company of the Year by World HRD Congress for excellent in training. In addition, Cognixia is listed in the top IoT training companies for second consecutive year and best emerging technology training organization in Middle East. And because of the time constraint, I included a few awards only. And however, there's a long list of achievements, by the way. So I think this is enough. And next slide, if you see, there is a long list of awards and accreditations. We have seen we got an award for various technologies and from almost every region of recognized world, such as Silicon India Best Training Provider for Big Data Hadoop Developer, Top 5 Emerging Technologies Training Companies for IoT, Cloud, and many more. So these are the awards the Cognixia has got. Furthermore, we are the authorized global training partner of some popular brands such as Red Hat, Automation Anywhere, ITIL, IC Square, and we are silver partner of Microsoft. A few more are in queue. In short, I can say that the achievement Cognixia has, it's incredible, and in a short period of time, you can see the lot of work has done. Okay, so this was a brief introduction of our company Cognixia. Now it's time to give my short introduction. This is also an important. Yes, my name is Sanjay Sharma, and I'm a presenter for this session. By profession, I'm a subject matter expert, training and technology consultant, and instructor for various technologies. I have more than 18 years of experience in the field of corporate training, in project management, in business operations, and as a subject matter expert with reputed companies. My area of expertise in IT training with AWS cloud computing, cybersecurity, Red Hat Linux, VMware data center virtualization, and TCP/IP networking. I've been delivered more than 100 corporate trainings in last 2 years. So I think this is sufficient for you to know about me. In addition, we are also considering that the attendees of this webinar could be beginner for the cloud computing, or you may have good experience in your current profile. Okay, now we need to just focus on a learning path. So we'll talk about agenda. So if you see the very first, we will start with the AWS global infrastructure, and later on introduction with one service, EC2 service. This is responsible to create virtual machine within AWS platform. So we will take one lab, we will launch a machine, Linux machine, of course. And second is we'll talk about the fault tolerance. What is the fault tolerance and how we can achieve fault tolerance for one web application server or website server. So we'll take one practical scenario and we'll see how we can implement application load balancing. Later on, application scaling to optimize performance. So in this, we'll talk about AWS auto scaling. What is an auto scaling? What kind of auto scalings we have? And we'll take one scenario which is based on some alarm and how we can scale up or scale down, or you can say scale out and scale in our infrastructure. Now, this is the most important. If you see, this is AWS global infrastructure. As you know, the global infrastructure is a vast topic. So to just clear the concept, I'll take it in some brief. If you see the world globe, so this is the world globe, left hand side you see, you can find some dots in different colors. So regions are in orange colors. So regions are basically geographical locations. So AWS infrastructure is divided into some geographical regions. So in every region is a separate geolocation. So this way, approximately, AWS has 22 regions. So 22 regions is a very big number. So for example, North Virginia, Ohio, Singapore, London, Sydney, Mumbai, and many others. So, and they are planning to launch few more regions. And you can also see some blue dots near every region. If you see, so these are the blue dots you can see every region. So these are basically availability zones. So each region further distributed in availability zone, and every region has at least 2 availability zones, and some regions have 6 availability zones. For example, North Virginia has 6 availability zones, so maximum region availability zones you can find in North Virginia. Availability zones are basically a cluster of data centers in a particular region. If somebody is asking you, the right hand side, if you see, this is a region. So we took a one region. Under this region, we have 3 availability zones. So what are the availability zones? Availability zones are nothing but group of data centers. So AWS is not telling anything about their data centers, where those data centers are located and how those are connected. But of course, one thing is there. Availability zones means a group of data centers, right? And the dot in purple color the dot in the purple color, if you see the purple color dots. So these are the purple color dots. So the point of presence, we call them as point of presence. And the point of presence contains edge locations. What are the edge locations? Edge locations are used to deliver customers content to reduce the latency. It means these edge locations are working as a caching servers or cache servers. So this way, if you are using edge locations, you can reduce the latency. So it will increase your delivery, right? So AWS provides the services in more than 190 countries throughout the world. AWS is using Zen hypervisor in their data center to manage hardware resources. Why I'm talking about the hardware resources and hypervisor? Because if you talk about the processor they are using in their data center, so AWS is using Xeon processor in their data centers to provide high performance servers. So further explanations and details about the global infrastructure we will cover in training. But one thing is important to know for you. So when you create a virtual machine in AWS, it's a basically EC2 instance. So we call them virtual machine in general language. Or EC2 instance, the first of all, you have to select a region, and within the region, the one availability zone you will select. And we will learn all these concepts in AWS training, but today we will demonstrate means how the things are happening. Okay, so in our next slide, if you see the comparison among AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, we clearly see the market share of AWS. So the market share of AWS is, if you see the table, is about approximately 62%. And compared to any other cloud platform, this difference is huge. To see this percentage figure, you can easily measure the popularity of Amazon Web Services. In 2006, AWS started IT infrastructure services, and now it's commonly known as AWS Cloud Computing. AWS supports all three models of cloud computing, such as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And each model represents a different part of the cloud computing stack. AWS offers you pay-as-you-go approach for pricing for over 120 cloud services. I'm talking about the major services. So if you are discounting major services in AWS, that is more than 120. But if I'm discounting the major as well as sub services, I mean the services within the services, so that number goes beyond 1,400. So AWS pricing is very simple, and that's how you pay for the water and electricity. Means whatever you use in AWS, you have to pay for only those services. So you only pay for the services you consume, and once you stop these or services, so there is no additional cost or termination fees. So AWS market is huge. Even certification of AWS is globally recognized. We provide the AWS training in a different segments. We provide in architecture, in DevOps, and in SysOps. So if you see the features of AWS, you find everything you need available at your fingertips, right? So AWS free tier account. So this is the significant feature. Means AWS provides a very, means this is the top feature I normally see, the significant feature for learners to hands-on this platform. So AWS free tier account is absolutely free of cost for 1 year with some limitations, of course. As of now, it is absolutely free of cost. You have not to pay anything. But as you see the screen, you can open AWS free tier page and see those limitations. So you can find the limitations here. So what are the limitations? So every free tier account has some limitation. The free tier is designed to give you a hands-on experience. AWS provides this excellent opportunity to businesses and individuals for testing and learning purpose. And the only thing is you have to just take care about the limitation. And next, so this first screen you see after logging into AWS. So this is called AWS Management Console. It is used to access and manage AWS services using web browser. This AWS Management Console facilitates cloud management for all aspects. You see the list of services on this console home. You can see all services are separated by group names, such as you can see the compute, this is the compute group, satellite group, security, identity, and compliance group, to quantum technology and management and governance. So this way, they separated their services in groups. So each group has some number of services. So you can also utilize the search functionality. Here you can find the search box. You can find a proper service if you don't see in this list, right? Next is very important. So introduction of EC2. What is EC2 instance? So I just explain you. This is a very good slide I just made. Under here, you can see this AWS global infrastructure. And global infrastructure can have multiple regions. I took one region. Under this region, we have multiple availability zone. And under these multiple availability zones, these are your virtual machines. So these virtual machines are known as EC2 instance. In AWS cloud environment, EC2 is a compute service. And using EC2, you can create a virtual machine. So this virtual machine, also known as EC2 instance. In order to create an EC2 instance, you would select a particular region, for example, North Virginia. And from that region, you would select one availability zone. And within that availability zone, you would launch an instance. It means to launch an instance, two things are important. First of all, you would select a region. Within the region, you would select a one availability, right? So this way your launch instance exists within a particular region and availability zone. Finally, it concludes that AWS provides a virtual environment where you can create EC2 instances, which replaces your hardware need. Hardware need means if you don't require, you can anytime shut down the machine. If you require, you can start the machine. You will pay only for the on time, right? Using EC2 service, you can save a huge investment cost to run your physical environment, right? The resultant of this, you can develop and deploy web application in less time and with less cost. Okay. So this is another slide. In this slide, you can see very clearly the position of an instance, which is created under North Virginia region and in a particular availability zone. So I'm just trying to explain you, this is a global infrastructure. The global infrastructure can have number of regions. I was saying almost 22 regions we have. Let's say we selected a North Virginia region, and in North Virginia region, we have multiple availability zone. If you launch an instance, it means you have to select a region, and within the region, you have to select a availability zone. And then you will launch an instance. EC2 instance is nothing but it's a virtual machine, right? In next slide, I'm just trying to explain you about the components of virtual machine or EC2 instance. First of all, we'll start with the number one. This is AMI, image of an operating system, which is known as AMI, Amazon Machine Image, or you can say a template of an operating system. In order to create any machine, you would require an operating system. Here we have an operating system in terms of template. So these AMIs are available in AWS cloud platform. Some AMIs, of course, are free and some are paid. we would select for free tier eligible for today's demonstration. AMI contains image for running operating systems such as Linux images we have, Windows operating system images we have. In AMIs, you can also include some specific application and configurations as per project requirement. Second is instance type. Instance type is nothing but it's a configuration for the machine. If you talk about a machine, every machine will have some configuration, means how much how many cores are there, or how much RAM is there, and what kind of the supportability of the ports or network interface capabilities are there. So the compute hardware and the compute resource, for example, CPU, RAM, and NIC, you can select under instance type. I'll show you, means we have a long list of instance type, more than you can say 200 or 300 combination of instance type we have. Now, third is the component. Third is the component is basically elastic block storage. So EBS volume, we call it as EBS volume, and EBS volume acts as a hard disk. EBS volume in virtual machine behaves like a hard disk, right? As you already experienced in physical machines, every machine will have hard disk, but we are using a block storage here. So EBS is a block level storage, EBS volume to be attached with EC2 instance, and multiple volumes can be attached to one instance. But at least the one is required. Without EBS volume, you cannot launch an instance, right? So EBS volumes provide the high availability and durability. You have not to configure it for redundancy or for high availability. By default, it is there. This is a good thing that you don't find in your physical infrastructure. And fourth component is security group. The security group, which is also known as an external firewall to filter TCP/IP traffic. So it means a lot of traffic is coming in and going out. So if you want to configure it, so we have the two kind of a configuration in a security group, inbound as well as outbound rules. So we can configure them and we can control the traffic, right? One more important, at least one security group with each EC2 instance is required. Without security group, you cannot launch a machine, and maximum 5 security groups can be attached with every EC2 instance. Is it clear? Now, one more thing is there, EC2 key pair, but that I'll tell you while I launch a machine. So this is a time for a demonstration. So we are just demonstrating how to launch an EC2 Linux instance. But yes, this is there. So it means you have to select a region. You will see here how we can launch an instance, but in order to launch an instance, some configuration parameters are required. For example, you have to select region, availability zone. You want to provide it public IP address or not, and what kind of Amazon Linux image is selected, or what kind of Linux you want to install, and ultimately the configuration of the machine, which is known as instance type. So because we are using free tier account, we have one option, t2.micro. I'll show you practically, and EBS volume. EBS volume is nothing but it's basically kind of a hard disk which is being attached with your EC2 instance. So right now I'll take a 10 GB space for this. And security group. Security group is used to filter the traffic because I'm creating Linux instance. So the port number 22 for protocol as such should be open for the rest of it, right? Now I'm just starting this interface. This is the interface. This is AWS Management Console, and I'm just going to launch an EC2 instance. So first of all, this is a search box. You should write EC2, and hit enter. Right now, I'm in North Virginia. If you see on the top in black strip, so I'm in North Virginia, right inside on the top. So if you want to change the region, you are open to change the region, right? So I selected a North Virginia. This is very important. If you're creating a machine in North Virginia, you cannot find that machine in Mumbai region. So be sure you selected a particular region you want to create a EC2 instance in, right? And left hand side, this is a pen. You have number of features available. I'll click on instances. And you will see I don't have any running instance. So I don't have any running instance. So click on a launch instance here. Click here. Yeah, this is a very important screen. This allows me to choose Amazon machine image. These are the templates of the machines, right? Do you see this? These are the templates of the machines. But very clearly you see, if some templates you see, very clearly is written the free tier eligible. Means if you select this particular AMI, it won't any charge, right? But some AMIs are not free of cost, so you will not charge. You will not select these because these are on chargeable basis. So we will discuss in our training, that means how you can find how much charges are there. But right now we are using the first one. This is a Linux, Amazon Linux instance. Sorry, AMI. This is basically the template of an operating system, right? So I'm just selecting it. In second screen, so it is providing me to select the instance type. Instance type is nothing but it's a basically kind of configuration of the machine. If you see in a green strip, it says it's available for the free tier eligible. So this is the only configuration available for free account. If you scroll down, you would see the number of other combination and the configuration combinations are there, and these combinations are more than 200 or 300. But what is more important, because if you select the T2.micro, you would get a one virtual CPU, 1 GB RAM, and network performance is low to moderate, and we can connect EBS volume only. But in some other cases, if you see, we have 96. If you see this particular configuration, we have 96 virtual CPU and 384 GB RAM, and you can select four, and you can choose the four 900 GB SSD and 20 gigabit network capability card, right? So, but these are not available free of cost, so we are not using it. So we are selecting only the available free of cost. Of course, it will be a little slower, but definitely it is sufficient for us because we are installing Linux instance, and this configuration even good to launch your Windows server, because they people are using the Xeon kind of processors in their data centers. The performance wise, those processors are very fast as compared to your i7 or i9, right? Now, right hand side, you would see right bottom, the configure instance detail. Click on configure instance detail. So third screen basically allows you to choose some network configuration. So I'm not telling you in much because we have less time, but the one thing is there. So first of all, you need to understand how many instances you are launching. So right now I'm just launching one instance. So please ensure that the one should be there. And I'm using the default VPC in every region. You'll get the default VPC. VPC is nothing but is basically kind of an isolated network, right? And here we have availability zone. In North Virginia, we have 6 availability zone. So you can select one availability zone to launch the machine. I'm using US East 1A, right? And auto assign public IP address. Yes, I need a public IP address, because if I don't have public IP address for my machine, so I cannot take the remote of the machine. So I want to take the remote of the machine. So definitely I require public IP address. And now right inside on the bottom, click on next, add storage. Yes. So this is the hard disk you have right now. This is called EBS volume. So by default, the size was 8 GB, and I want to take 10 GB. So just change the figure to 10, and the rest thing is let it be as it is. I'm not making any changes here. Now go and click on add tag. Add tag is basically nothing. You are tagging your resources. Let's say you want to give the name to the machine. So I'm giving the machine's name, webinar Linux VM, right? So this is my machine tag. You can add another tag also. So one machine can have multiple tags. Now click on configure security group. What is a security group? Security group is nothing but this is basically a kind of external firewall. I was talking about the security group here. Okay, in security group you can filter the incoming traffic or outgoing traffic. So right now we are controlling the incoming traffic, which is coming from internet, because you are launching Linux instance, and in order to take the remote of the Linux instance, port number 22 and protocol SSH should be open. So I'm just opening it for everyone. That's why I'm not specifying a particular IP address. So I'm including all IP address 0.0.0.0/0. Very interesting. And if you are making this machine as a web server, you can include HTTP also here. And HTTP is basically for port number 80, right? So I'm including 2. And if you want to test ping command, you can include one more protocol, which is ICMP for IP version 4, right? And you can include any IP address. So I'm not making much restriction. So because I'm just demonstrating the activities, this way you can just write the code. It's very simple, but you should know only about the protocol names and the port numbers. That's all. This is enough. And review and launch. And finally, so this is the setting, this is the configuration you selected, and you can launch the machine. And finally, the most important part, which is known as EC2 key pair. In the end of EC2 launch configuration, we have assigned a key pair, which is known as EC2 key pair, because AWS uses public key cryptography to log into EC2 instance, and which is providing you one public key and private key. So if you have already existed key, you can use. Otherwise, you can create a key pair, and this is being used to log in into your machine, right? So I'm saying webinar, and today is 28th second, let's say 2020, and underscore key, right? You can download it. So you can see left hand side, you have downloaded in a PAM format, PEM format. If you see the extension of the file, it is in PAM format, right? You launch the instance. This won't take much time. Within a few minutes, you will find that your machine is ready. So this machine is being launched here. You can see the status here. It is being initialized. And one public IP address is already assigned to this machine. If you see, because this machine is still pending, this is not yet ready to take the remote. But if you try CMD here, so I'm just checking whether it's working or not. What do you say? Will it work? No, it will not work because it is not yet ready, right? So it will take time. So if you see the description of the machine, you can find each and everything. You can see about the status, instance type, then the public DNS of the machine, and public IP address of the machine, and few more things like the root devices, which is known as your EBS volume. right? So I'm not taking much in detail. Then how to take the remote of the machine, very important. Let me see once again. Is this working? Yes, the machine is working. Machine is responding. Machine has been started. It is ready to take the remote. So I'm using a tool which is known as MobX term. Why I'm using MobX term? We have two tools normally people are using. The Putty is very famous, very popular among developers and users. They people are using, but Putty has some limitation because Putty does not support to .pam format directly. So it's mean you have to convert first of all .pam format into PPK format. Then you can use Putty. To avoid that step, I'm directly using MobX term because the MobX term supports to .pam format. So MobX term is open. Go to the session and select SSH. SSH is a protocol to take the remote of Linux machine. So what was the IP address of the machine? So this is the public IP address. I copied the public IP address. I pasted the public IP address here. And what is the username of the machine? And as you know, I didn't give any username as of now. So in order to understand or in order to see the what is the default username, because you're using template of the machine. So you have used a template of the machine. So here we have three options here: launch instance, connect, and action. So if you click on connect, it will tell you about the username. So EC2-username. EC2-user is a username for the machine, right? You select it and fill it here. Paste. Now go and click on advanced access setting. Here use private key. What was the private key name? The private key name was, I think it was started with the web. Am I right? This was the webinar 28. Yes, this is the key. I selected it, open and OK, and see what happens. Yes, I logged in, right? Perfect. This is good. So you have taken the remote of the machine. So in a few seconds, in a few minutes, you created a machine. And if you want to test whether this machine has an internet connectivity, so you can see ping google.com. It's working. It's fine. So your Linux machine is ready. You can do anything, right? So this is the one thing. Now, so we have one machine, and this is well running. If you see under the instance data, it is running. It is good. Okay. Now we'll jump on a next topic because we have very less time. So the launch of an EC2 instance has been completed. I think if you follow the steps, you can repeat the lab your own. Second is AWS architecture of application load balancing and high availability. If you see this diagram, you would see we have elastic load balancer connected here, and this orange color strip shows this is an auto scaled platform or auto scale machines right now. So these machines are launched into different availability zone. So these two machines are launched in availability zone A, and these two machines are launched in availability zone B. Here we have applied auto scaling, and auto scaling feature is integrated with elastic load balancing. And elastic load balancing further connected with the Route 53, which is a DNS service in AWS. And here you can see this is the internet use, right? So I'm not making this scenario much complicated. This is the best and simple architecture example I have taken in which you would see the both auto scaling and elastic load balancing. So this is a real-time example, but in order to understand or implement, first of all, you should learn elastic load balancer. What is the elastic load balancer and what is auto scaling separately, right? So because in a complex environment, this would be very difficult for me to just explain both the terms. In this diagram, only external ELB is used along with the auto scaling. External means this ELB can be accessible over internet, and it would be difficult for you to understand if we directly start with the service integration, right? Now, if you see this diagram, we have the two different kind of load balancer in this diagram. One is the internet facing load balancer and another is the internal load balancer. I'll tell you what is the load balancer and what is the purpose of load balancer, but I'm just showing only the diagram. So it's mean we have the different kind of a load balancer. If you want to apply or launch a load balancer within your AWS architecture, which is not internet facing, so that is called internal load balancer, and any load balancer which is facing internet called internet facing load balancer, right? Now, achieving fault tolerance for web application or website. So this is talking about the elastic load balance, simple elastic load balance. So this screen is split into two parts. The left hand side you can see without the architecture, without elastic load balancing, and right hand side you can see the architecture with elastic load balancing. So if you see the elastic load balancing, so without elastic load balancing, if this machine goes wrong or this machine become unavailable because of any reason, it's mean we have no option. This application, web application or website will be unavailable for my client. So first of all, we should understand what elastic load balancer does. ELB is a traffic load balancing service which distributes incoming traffic automatically across defined target instances as per the configuration. So these are the target instances, right? And if you see here, we applied a elastic load balancer. So this elastic load balancer is further connected with the instances. And these instances are in a different availability zones. So if something happens wrong with one availability zone, still we have a few instances available because all these instances has a similar kind of a configuration, similar kind of machine. So these are the similar kind of the machines. So the people are accessing from internet, they cannot find anything wrong with the machine. It's mean this application will be available at their end, right? To understand more precisely why ELB is needed, just consider that you are working with one server or one application and your server becomes unavailable because of any reason. Maybe because of misconfiguration, it may be unavailable because of access load, or maybe availability zone is down in which your server was working. So any reason can happen. In such cases, your client will not be able to access the web application. So what the solution we have? ELB is the solution of this issue. According to ELB, it distributes traffic between EC2 instances, and these instances are keeping the same web application, or these instances in real-time scenario are replica of each other. It's mean all ELB instances are same, which are participating in load distribution. So ELB is doing nothing, it is distributing load using round robin algorithm. It means if one packet comes in, one request comes in, it will go to the first instance, second request will go to the second, third will go to the third instance. So one by one, ELB is sending the packets to the healthy instances, right? So without wasting time, we can take some scenario, but ELB also is known as the fault tolerance service. What is the fault tolerance? The fault tolerance means in case a VM is unavailable. If one VM is unavailable without downtime, another instance with the similar capability is available to the client. And ELB works in different layers. We have a different kind of uh, load balancer. I'm just coming on that. So ELB works on layer 7 or in layer 4. So ELB supports to various protocols for load balancing, such as hypertext transfer protocol, which is known as HTTP or HTTPS, right? ELB provides a fixed DNS like entry point or endpoint to access ELB. So every ELB has its endpoint, and that endpoint is accessible over the internet. I'll show you how we can work with this, right? And the same ELB, if mapped with the DNS services, it's mean using your domain name, you can access that application, right? Now, I'm just talking about the different kind of the load balancer. We have the three different kind of the load balancer: application load balancer, network load balancer, and the classic load balancer. Application load balancer serves as a single point of contact for your client, exactly similar to the DNS of website. It's mean it is working on a layer 7 of open system interconnection, right? OSI. The application load balancer uses SSL and TLS protocol to establish encrypted connection between ELB and the client. If you are using HTTPS, it means you are using encrypted connection between ELB and the client machine. It also provides the load balancing for internal servers running in backend. This is a very good thing. So because of time constraint, I'm not going in much deeper. Please try to understand. I'm just taking a review of the topic, right? And second is network load balancer. Network load balancer operates on fourth layer of OSI in TCP/IP network model. And network load balancer also serves as a single point of contact for your client. Means network load balancer also has its endpoint, and to reach the load balancer, either you can use the ELB DNS name or directly you can say endpoint. The resource record can be added in DNS in terms of CNAME and A records. I'll teach you in the detailed training means how we can add those things. But right now, the third one is a classic load balancer. If you see the application load balancer, it works on layer 7. Network load balancer, it works on layer 4. But if you want to customize, the people are not very frequently using classic load balancer. But the one beauty you have in a classic load balancer, this works in both layer 7 as well as layer 4. If you want to customize your application, you want to use 7 and 4, both one, I think the classic load balancer is the ultimate example. Next, this is the thing. So the type of load balancer, one is the internet facing load balancer and another is the internal load balancer. So internet facing load balancer receives the traffic from internet users and distributes the traffic across the multiple instances, which with the load balancers known as the internet facing load balancer, right? So when the client uses the internet to access the web application, which is configured using a load balancer, and that elastic load balancer distribute traffic across multiple instances. In a simple word to understand, any load balancer which is directly faces towards internet, it is known as internet load balancer. And in another scenario, if you see, we have some machines, means these machines are within AWS environment, and few machines are there. So some are public machines and some are private machines, right? The few machines are public machines and few machines are private machines. I'm talking about the EC2 instances. And between them, if you want to manage load, you can use internal load balancer. So this internal load balancer cannot be accessible from internet. The only load balancer is accessible over internet is internet facing load balancer, right? So I'm just going to take a very simple scenario. So I think this will help you to understand. So this is the scenario I'm taking. We will launch two web servers and we will connect these two web servers with the application load balancer, and we will check whether this incoming traffic is being distributed or not. In order to verify the incoming traffic is distributed or not, we will do a little change in this. We will create a two different web server with the two different index.html files in them, right? So you can easily find so from where this response is coming. So I think this diagram is well clear. So it's mean, first of all, you have to choose a region. Within a region, you will create two web servers. The first you will create an availability zone 1, another you will create an availability zone, and both server you will configure them as a web server, and then you will apply and configure application load balancer. So let's start. Very simple. So I'm just stopping the first machine here. So this machine, I'm just stopping the machine because we have less time. We are creating two machines in two different availability zones, first of all. So this is your EC2 instance dashboard. You are well in an EC2 dashboard. Go to the EC2 instance, go to launch machine. I'm taking Amazon Linux image. So T2.micro instance type is okay because this is available free of cost. I'm okay with this. Configure instance detail. Then one machine you are creating, we are selected the default VPC and we are selecting availability zone. Let's say US East 1A, right? Public IP is enabled. Don't worry. And add storage. 8 GB is okay. I'm not making any changes here. Next, add tag. I'm not giving even the tag here right now, but because you are just creating this machine as a web server, the port number 80 should be open, and you give name to this machine, this security group, and the same security group can be used anywhere with another machines also. Let's say web security group demo, right? This is good, and I think I'm not it is okay. I'm not enabling ICMP. Review, launch it, and we already created a one key pair. So again and again, we will not create a new key pair. We will use existing key pair. What was the name of the key pair? You can find it here. Still, you can see the name, the webinar 2802. Where was that? Sorry. Yes. This is okay. The one machine. Now launch a second machine, and we will configure them one by one, right? So we name it. This is web server 01. So we have less time. Launch an instance, another, without wasting time. Next. And this time you are taking different availability zone. Everything is okay. Storage is okay. We are not adding security group. You already had a security group. What was the name of the security group? You had, there's a security group, right? Launch it, and you had existing key. What was the key? This is the key you had, right? Webinar, and it is done. Now, one by one, we'll configure them as a web server. You can name it. This is your web server 02. Perfect. Without wasting time, I'm just closing the first one. I'll take the remote of the first machine. So see, what's the IP address? IP address of the first machine. I just copy it. I just paste it here. And username, of course, EC2-user. Add private key. What was the key name? Key name is okay. This was the key name. Okay. And I configure this machine as a web server, right? Okay. So sudo su- to switch as a root user. Now yum install httpd. This way you can install the package of httpd. So this is being installed. The package has been installed. Now service httpd start, and now we are just creating a, we are changing the directory where www and html, and if you see there is no file, so we are creating a simple HTML file. You can write this is my first web server, right? And you just copy the content in index.html file. Perfect. It means this has been done. So if you want to check this, you just go there and you can check. This is working, right? So without wasting time, you can also check. I can paste in this chat box. You can also check. Now, we are just going to configure the second machine. So how to take this another session? Go, what is the IP address of the second machine? I just copy the machine's IP address here, and you just write EC2-user. This is the username. Go to the advanced setting, private key, and simply the private key is there. And okay, the second machine also has been opened, right? Now the same, the sudo su-yum install, sorry, spelling mistake, install, Linux is the case sensitive, so please just take care. Yum install httpd -y httpd, and I think this is okay. So httpd is installed. Now service httpd start, and just change the directory where www html, and you would see there is no file, and you are creating file, and you can see that the second server for ELB, right? So you can easily identify from where you are getting response, from which server you're getting response. Index.html, no spelling mistake, please. And if you want to check this individually, you just go and check whether it is working or not perfectly. You can also check it's working perfectly. Now it's time to configure or launch a ELB, elastic load balancing. So left hand side pane, if you drag down, you would see load balancing. We have two options under the load balancing. One is a load balancer and another is the target group. So click on a load balancer. So what kind of a load balancer you want to create? I want to create a application load balancer. So create a load balancer here. Click on this. So we have three options: application load balancer, network load balancer, and the classic load balancer. I'm selecting application load balancer. You give the name to the load balancer, webinar ELB demo, right? And what kind of load balancer you're creating, internet facing or internal? I'm creating internet facing, right? And this is using the HTTP, the port number 80. Perfect. And you select the default VPC. So this is a default VPC. And I'm selecting the availability zones in which my machines are working. So I think US East 1A and US East 1B. We already selected to launch the machines, right? So these the information you need to remember and configure the security group. Every ELB should be connected with the security group. So what is the security group? You select the security group. I already created a security group. So I'm using the same security group. I'm not creating every time a security group. Security group is nothing but it's basically an external firewall. Configure routing, and target group means the how many machines, and those machines are participating in ELB. So I'm using the new target group. I'm creating a new target TRG for demo webinar, right? And these are the instances working on port number 80 using protocol HTTP. Nothing you have to change. Register targets. So these are the two machines we already launched, server 1 and server 2. You are selecting them and add these machines as target machines. So these are registered. Here you have clicked, and now review and create. And it will take a few minute time, and you would see this has been created. So you can see it's basically the provisioning, and this will take another 4 to 5 minutes to provision. And once it is active, so this is the ELB you have. This is the ELB you have. You can use this ELB, and you can reach those servers. So, but right now it's provisioning. It's mean you cannot access it. It will take another 3 to 4 minutes, right? But we can't wait here. Let it be as it is. So we are just moving for the next slide. We are moving for the next slide, auto scale. So meantime, we'll just talk about auto scaling. What is the auto scaling? So with the auto scaling service in AWS, we can increase or decrease the number of instances as per the requirement. This is very good thing. It's mean if your need is less, you can work with less number of machines. If your need is more, if the internal means internet traffic is more, if the consumption of compute resources is more, you can increase the number of EC2 instances to share the load. And if it is not required, the meantime you can roll back. It's mean you can decrease the number of resources. So this way you can control the cost of the infrastructure. So auto scaling is an AWS service which ensures that we have the correct number of EC2 instances to share the load for running application. If you see this diagram, this is a dynamic diagram. I click here, you can find how the things are working, because right now we have very limited internet traffic, and I think the one EC2 instance is sufficient to bear the load. But in case if the internet traffic is more, automatically using auto scaling, the number of EC2 instance will be deployed, right? So this is the beauty, means you can find, means it will auto scale out, right? So it will scale out automatically. And if it is not needed, it can scale in also automatically. Okay, by the way, I just try to see whether it is still ready or not. It is active. Do you see this is active? Okay, so this is the endpoint. This DNS name is the endpoint of this ELB. What I'm doing, because I'm using two different servers. It means if I'm hitting the same URL again and again, I should get a different output because my request will reach to the different machines, right? Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, the second, can you see? My URL is same, but your results are varying. Why this result is varying? Because ELB is distributing your load, right? Even you can also hit and try, it will work. So I shared this ELB endpoint, right? Now we are just going back, and so auto scaling. We have very less time. I'll do one thing, because this is very clear, means what the auto scaling is doing. The auto scaling can create a number of instances under auto scaling group. It means it can scale out and scale in automatically as per the need. Scale in means decrease in size of the group, and scale out means increase in size of the group, right? So what I'm doing, I just talk about the benefits of auto scaling. It can improve the fault tolerance. Basically, the auto scaling is known for high availability, and it improves your application server availability. And it is very vital and significant feature which is provided by AWS to manage the cost of your infrastructure. If it is needed, it means automatically, according to the condition and the policy you apply, it will increase the size or increase the number of instances, and if it is required, it will automatically increase the number. Means it depends. If the incoming traffic is more, it will increase the number of instances. If the incoming traffic is less, it will increase number of instances, right? Now, in order to apply auto scaling, you must have a launch configuration. What is the launch configuration? Launch configuration is nothing but it contains the name of the launch configuration and what kind of the AMI you are using, and instance type, and key pair, and security group, and if you're applying any IAM role, right? So once the launch configuration is clear, means you created, the second step is you need to create a auto scaling group. So what auto scaling group contains, it contains its name and what launch configuration you are using, and availability zones, and minimum and the maximum capacity of auto scaling, means the range of how many minimum number of machines and maximum number of machines can be defined here. Now desired capacity, and if you want to integrate the load balancer, of course the option is here. And right hand side under the auto scaling policy, this is very important, means on what particular uh, condition, this will trigger the action that we have to see. Let's say you are deciding if the CPU usage of machine goes beyond a certain percentage level, automatically one more machine should be created, right? So this kind of a condition we can write, and if we reach that threshold, automatically auto scaling policy will trigger that alarm, and alarm is connected with the action, and according to that action, the one more machine will be created. So I'm just trying to just explain you here in the next slide. So we have two different kind of auto scaling. One is a fleet management, another is a dynamic scaling. In a fleet management, we are not increasing and decreasing. We are working with a fixed number of machines. It means if you are working with the two machines, it will always remain two machines. If one machine is unhealthy, automatically AWS auto scaling will create a healthy machine using the AMI you have defined in the configuration. And under the dynamic scaling, you need to specify some condition. Let's say you're talking about CPU utilization. If the CPU utilization reaches a certain level, automatically the size of the auto scaling group will be increased, right? So what I'm doing, I'm demonstrating, I'm taking one very simple scenario, taking a case of a dynamic scaling in which the CPU usage of an EC2 instance reaches a set threshold. Automatically a new instance should be added to share the load. And what is the prerequisite to start the lab? We must have one EC2 instance, right? We must have, sorry, image of one EC2 instance, and IAM role to be integrated with EC2 instance to transfer data between storage and EC2 instance. So this is the requirement of this lab basically, right? But this condition is common, means the image of an server of an EC2 instance or image of web server is required. So see how we just configure it. Let me choose here. Let me check, do we have any image, ready-made image? Yes, we have image perfectly. So we are just saving the time here. Okay. And we have an instance here. So how many instances we are there? We have. So we are stopping all the instances, right? We don't require these instances. So this way you can easily identify new created images or new created instances. So if you drag down left-hand side pane, you will find auto scaling option. Under auto scaling, launch configurations option, you just click on launch configuration option. So we don't have any launch configuration as of now. We are creating launch configuration here. Click on launch configuration. So we are taking one web server image, which is already created by me for this scenario. T2.micro, launch configuration. This is the instance type we are taking. And if you want to give the launch configuration name, you can say webinar web demo launch configuration 01, right? And if you want to add any role, so role also is created, which is useful to just provide the full access to EC2 instances to access storage, S3 storage, and add storage. I'm okay with 8 GB, and I'm using existing security group. This will save my time. View, you launch the configuration, and I'm using existing key pair. Now create an auto scaling group using this launch configuration. So this was the launch configuration I created. Click on create an auto scaling group using this launch configuration. You give the name to the auto scaling group. I'll say webinar auto scaling GRP demo, right? And we start with the minimum one instance, but we are choosing everything in the default VPC. VPC is basically an isolated network. And how many subnets are participating? So I'm choosing only the 1 and 2, right? Since the beginning, I'm just taking the 2 subnets here, or 2 availability zones. Now configure scaling policy. So we have the 2 policies. I was talking about the policies. Number 1 is the fleet management. If you select the first one, it means you're selecting the fleet management. And if you're selecting the second one, it means you are selecting the dynamic scaling. Dynamic scaling creates the target tracking scaling policy for the resources in your scaling plan, right? So, so you start with the number one machine, and maximum it can go up to three, let's say three, if load increases. And you need to provide some conditions. So here you can find a line in blue color, the scale, the auto scaling group using step or simple scaling policy. You click here. As you click here, so you are open to just declare the condition. Right now, we do not have any alarm. You create an alarm, click on add new alarm. So this topic is clear. Okay, so you have to concentrate here. So if average CPU utilization goes beyond, let's say I'm taking 7%. If I'm taking 70%, definitely I have to put more load to trigger, to make it an action actually. So I think the 7% is more than enough. So I'm taking a 7%. So my demonstration will be much easier because I want to show how the things are working and create alarm and what the action you want to take. If it is reaching the 7% and more than 7%, you should add one more EC2 instance, and you need a 30 seconds to warm up, right? And if you want to provide scale-in policy, so you can use the another option also, but right now I'm not taking it to save the time. I'm only providing the condition for scale out. So click here, configure notification. I'm not providing any notification. If you provide notification, you'll receive the notification in your registered email IDs and cell phones, right? Configure tag. I'm not providing the tag also here. And create auto scaling group. So this is done. So you close it. So how many machines are there? So right now, so minimum size of the auto scaling group is 1, and maximum size, it can reach maximum up to 3. So we involved 2 availability zones here, and number of instances we have right now 1. And we took actually the default cool down time is 300, and this should be taken less, by the way. By the way, is there? Don't worry, it's okay. So if you see the instances, if you go to the instances screen, you would find that automatically the one instance is being created, right? So this is your auto scaling EC2 instance 01. This you have created, and if you want to monitor its performance, below here you can click on monitor tab, and under the monitor tab you can see the CPU utilization. Right now it is being created actually. So this machine has no load. If you want to put that load, if you want to put some load on this machine, it's when you have to take the remote of this machine and you have to initiate some job. So what I'm doing here, go to description. This is the machine's IP address, and I'm going back. Sorry. I'm just taking a new session for the new machine. This is the IP address, EC2-user. Add the key. What was the key name? This is the key name. Okay. Perfectly. Right. Now I can do one thing, sudo su hyphen. So this is the command to switch to root user. And one more thing I want to just tell you, because I want to put some load on this machine. So best way is I must have one bucket in my storage. So S3 is a storage. So I'm checking whether I have a ready-made, already created bucket. Yes, I have a bucket, like Sai Ganesh is a bucket. I just go there. I delete all my old jobs. So this way, this bucket is empty. This should work. It's taking time. Yes, now bucket is empty. And what is the name of the bucket? The bucket name is Sai Ganesh. Saiganesh. Right. Now I want to transfer some data from my machine. Then only I can put some load on this machine. Right now, this machine has no load. So you can just do right AWS S3. Directly you can reach the command line interface because the role was added with this machine. And that role was responsible to provide the command line interface and access to S3 service. That I'll tell you in detail in training, right? AWS S3, you are syncing. So source is your root of this machine and the target is Sai Ganesh. I think I'm not wrong. So this is the spelling. If everything is okay, it will transfer the entire operating system from this machine to your S3 bucket. You see whether it is working or not. It is uploading, it's working fine, right? So it is now putting some load on the machine. If the machine's load reaches more than 7% of the total CPU utilization, it means that auto scaling will trigger and you will find in few seconds the one more machine will appear automatically to share the load. This is the good thing, right? Because the only one condition you applied during the configuration and that condition was for scale out. Am I right? Is it clear? So let me see, first of all, you need to monitor it right now because we are using the basic monitoring. Is it? So under the basic monitoring, because the basic monitoring is available free of cost under free tier eligible. So it pulls the data in every 5 minutes. So that's why you don't see right now any data, but you have to wait for 2 or 3 minutes. And you would see the usage of the machine, the CPU utilization is spiking, right? I'm just waiting. By the way, in background, the transfer is happening. Do you see this? It is remaining, is calculating. It's working, by the way. The 208 MB has been completed. The rest is the 16. And maximum it can go up to the 16 TB. But we had only this 8 GB data. I'm just waiting. You give me 1 minute more because this activity definitely takes time. It takes actually the 5 minutes. If I choose 1 minute, if I want to choose 1 minute, it means you have to convert back into the detailed monitoring, and detailed monitoring is not free of cost actually. So we are using only the basic monitoring. Some definitely limitations are there to learn, but in production environment, people are using detailed monitoring, right? I'm waiting. It should see some result. Yeah, the data is being transferred. 7.8 GB, almost the data has been completed, right? Yes. Can you see this? Can you see the performance? The CPU utilization, it is reaches up to almost 60%. The 60% of the CPU utilization because we are using only the simple single core CPU. It's not a single core, it's a one virtual CPU machine. And in a few seconds, you would see automatically another machine will appear using the launch configuration. Because I didn't check, actually, I didn't minimize the time. The default time was 300 seconds, almost 5 minutes. So we can control the time also. Now, did you see that the one more machine is there? So it's the second machine appeared. Yes, the auto scaling is working now. Why it is working? Because the CPU utilization has been reached almost the 60% and it should not reach more than 7%, right? So that's why that automatically the policy triggered the alarm, and according to the alarm, the one more machine should be appeared, and this is the machine, right? The auto scaling is working. So this is all about we covered here. We try to just explain you everything properly, and okay. So if you have any question, you can ask me one by one. It's not possible for me to just take all the questions, so I'm taking very randomly. I can see the number of questions since the beginning are there, but I'm taking few questions. So Ilis is asking, hello, this is the first time look up on AWS. I would like to know how we attacked by DDoS and increase our resources. So we have a proper solution actually to fight with the DDoS. That can be done with the guard and other services we have. So we can talk in detail in our course, because that was not the part of today's agenda. So it will be very unfair if I'm just talking about DDoS attack and the solution for the DDoS attack, right? And please let me take few more questions. What is AMI? Amazon Machine Image. Pratyush, this is an Amazon Machine Image, or you can say it's an operating system template. So we are using operating system template to launch EC2 instances, right? You can either use a ready-made AMIs, or you can create your own AMI. Both options are available. Next is, what is the load balancer and how does it work? So I think if you have closely watched this video or this webinar, so I think you can easily understand what is a load balancer and what it does. But for you, I just do explain once again. Elastic Load Balancer is a traffic load balancing service, and which distributes incoming traffic automatically across the multiple EC2 instances, and those instances may be in a same availability zone or a different availability zone. So you are basically distributing incoming traffic, right? Next is, what is the nature of work of load balancer? Mohan Raja. Nature means we have the three different kind of load balancer. One is an application load balancer, which works on layer 7. We have a network load balancer, which works on layer 4, and we have the classic load balancer, which is you can use for layer 4 as well as layer 7, right? Next is what do you mean by the template image of an operating system? Pratyush, I think the same thing is, I already gave the answer. I think I should take a new questions here. Yes, Yogendra Yadav is asking, while data transferring, why there are some files getting failed? Because of the permission. Maybe because of the permission are not there. Because what I did, I just tried to just copy the entire operating system from machine to bucket, right? So that's why. Because this is not a good practice to copy entire machine from one place to another data center. Yes. What is a security group? Prashant. Prashant, security group is basically a kind of an external firewall for your EC2 instance or elastic load balancer. Means you can control incoming or outgoing TCP/IP traffic. One more question we have. So what is the difference between the fleet management and dynamic scaling? Very simple. In fleet management, if you want to work with the fixed number of instances, let's say you want to work with a 4 number of instances, you do not want to scale out or scale in. I think you are okay with the 4 number of instances or 3 number of instances. You do not want to change those instances. Fleet management refers to the functionality that automatically replaces the unhealthy instance and maintains your fleet number at the desired capacity, right? But the dynamic scaling is a different. Under the dynamic scaling, it's mean the scaling and scale out policy can be defined. What is S3 bucket? Is a Pedro Sosa. What is an S3 bucket? S3 is a simple storage. It's a basically object level storage, and you can copy any kind of data in it, right? So this is object level storage in AWS. Next is the similar kind of questions are asked. I think the most of the question types I have answered. If you have any question, please. Okay, everyone. I think you have enjoyed. If you have any query related to the course or related to the delivery of the course, we provide LMS also. So once the session is completed, the recorded session you can find on your LMS, and all the study materials is available for lifetime. And if you have any question related to the course or the technical, you can reach webinar@cognixia.com. These are the numbers, and we have some options available here. So you can directly reach our team and you can speak people. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.